Okay, so since this is an all-wheel drive car, and like I said earlier, the axle goes through the oil pan into the differential, and the differential bolts onto the oil pan in these cars. And it's going to be the same with the 6-cylinder all-wheel drive or the Hemi all-wheel drive. We're going to have to take this wheel off and a lot of the suspension apart on this side to get that axle out of the oil pan. While I'm doing that, I think Mike, he'll probably get on there, start disconnecting the alternator, some of the upper bell housing bolts, stuff like that. So we'll tag team, we'll tackle it together, and we'll try to make some good progress on this. So, because we're going to be a while taking all this apart, we got to take the caliper off, the rotor off, the hub off, and split the tie rod and ball joint, stuff like that. We're going to treat you to the good old time lapse with maybe a little bit of the music playing in the background. So, follow along. Okay, so I've got everything loosened off at the end here. I got to get this axle shaft out. How I do that is I just take my broken breaker bar, and we're going to give it a whack on the back out right here. We're going to try to pop that retainer ring.
It's moving.
They're a little tricky, but I think we got that one.
Definitely moving.
There we go. We'll get that axle shaft right out of the way now.
Nice.
See, we've got a problem with our boot here. Sometimes you can get a replacement boot. We might look at that option, but we'll just price out an axle, see how much those are, and that might be the better way to go. And we'll just, since we got it all apart anyways, it's a good time to do this. Doesn't feel like there's a lot of play in here, so either option's okay. Okay. Yep. Okay, that's missing a bolt. Yep. Get over here. Yeah. Oh, that's missing a bolt. Oh, that's missing a bolt. Okay, yeah, looking good under here. A whole bunch of missing bolts. That looks like it's missing a bolt too. I think someone's been in here before, and it wasn't me. So we got the through axle out of the oil pan. There you go. There it is. Now, what we had to do is we had to loosen this motor mount, and we had to lift the engine up a little bit with the jack, and she just popped right out of there. It just gave us just enough room to sneak it by everything. So, good.
So now we got him moving over to the differential side, and he's making all sorts of noises again.
Yeah. There's a bolt or two in it. There's maybe 3 or 4 or 5 or 10. There's a lot of bolts holding its differential onto this oil pan. 1, 2, 3. That one looks like it's missing. Is that missing? No. Well, maybe. We'll have to see. 4, 5, 6. A couple up top. 7, 8, 9. I don't know. There's about 10 bolts holding it on, it looks like. We'll get it figured out.
Good.
Well, I think we're pretty close to being ready to lift this engine out, Mike. So one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to get this coolant reservoir out of the way. It's just a couple bolts and it should just pop up. I've already loosened them off.
So in my brief experience as Brent's apprentice here, I have taken apart several transmissions, and some of them have been very, very difficult to get apart. Anyways, this one, as he was finishing off, which bolts were you taking out?
I do believe I was taking torque converter bolts off, and you used your mental abilities to simply separate the transmission bell housing.
He felt this off apart, and I immediately took credit because I was very unhappy with how it went last time. So I think it was just wanted to separate so that I didn't beat on it.
Wow. You should see the booger welds down here on the exhaust. That's impressive. But
Is that right?
I guess suppose as long as it seals. I get absolutely everything in my eyes. That's fantastic. I think I got about 5 pounds of dirt on my face in there. So, as you can see, we got it out successfully. It was a little tight, I'll give you that, but we did get it out. We didn't wreck anything. Hey, you look down here, right there. There you can see that hole that goes straight through, and that's why we had to take the differential bolts on here. So you got about 6 bolts here, and then a bracket that comes up to your mount. Couple more, and then that'll get your differential off. If we look down in the car, we'll show it to you later. And this is where that axle goes through, right here. You'll remember we pulled this off, and that bolt right through your oil pan, just right in there. That's how that sits on there when it's in the car. And then the differential bolts on the other side here. You can see the axle comes through.
Ah, yes.
Right now, we've got our 2 engines here. This is the one that we've pulled out of the Charger. This is the bad one, has the hole in the piston. But we're going to need to pull a few things off of this because the engine, the donor engine, came from a Ram 1500. I think it was around 2006, and this is a 2007 Charger. So the front cover is different, which is a real shame because we've got all the accessories on this. This is a complete engine. This thing is 100% complete. We know it runs, and that's fantastic, but we're going to have to take all this off, right down to taking this balancer off, pulling the timing cover off, and changing it over. The big thing on this is the oil pan. Like, as you can see on this guy, because it's an all-wheel drive, you need, it's first of all front sump, and you need to have the axle be able to go through here. So the other thing we're going to have to take off is back here. Flex plate's different. This bolts up to the NAG 1 transmission in the car and the truck. So this has 6 bolts in 2 and 3 different locations. The truck has 4. So we're going to have to switch those out. So, and then the last thing we're going to have to do is like the engine mounts and the exhaust manifolds. And so we're going to get started on that. We're going to start taking this apart. We're going to start taking this apart. We're going to swap everything around. And then we're going to take this one, put it back in the car. Okay, we made pretty good progress. We've got the balancer off of both engines. We're almost ready to pull the timing cover off of this, and Mike's got it pretty much stripped down. Got the oil pan off, got the exhaust manifold off, and the flex plates off. We're gonna have to take this pickup off and this gasket windage tray pan off. And we'll take a look at it, see if we can reuse it. If we can't, we'll have to get a new one. And that's it for tonight. It's getting kind of late, so we're going to wrap it up and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one. Okay, so we're just getting ready to pull the exhaust manifold off of the donor truck engine. And if you look right here, you can see a very common issue on these Hemi engines, especially on the trucks, is they have broken exhaust studs. And we got lucky on this one because you can see that these broke off like near the flange. So when we pull this manifold off, Mike, you want to go ahead and just pull that manifold off. You can see we got something to grab onto, and we should be able to get these out fairly easy with a pair of vice grips. So we'll just hit that with a little bit of penetrant oil and lock the vice grips on those and take them out. If they break off closer to here, this one's been leaking for a while. Look how black that is.
Right. Well, both of them were broken, hey?
Yeah. So if they break off closer to here, then you're going to have to be doing some drilling and easy out and stuff like that. So the other thing I want to show you while we're here is on the Charger, the oil dipstick tube does not go into the block. Can you grab, there's a little cap there on the bench. Can you grab it?
Yeah.
We're just going to point this out right now because this is an easy thing to miss. So you've almost got like a very tiny frost plug here. So you're going to pull this out of the other engine. You're going to pull the dipstick tube out and you're going to put that cap in there. Make sure you get that, otherwise you're going to have an oil leak. And then the dipstick for the car is built into the oil pan on the car. So that's where that's going to come from. Just want to point that out because it's easy to miss. So a couple other things we're going to have to take off of here because they don't match is, like I said before, the flex plate's going to have to come off. You see it's got 4 bolt holes and just a single one rather than the dual style like in the car. We're going to take the oil pan off, like I said, and replace that with the aluminum one for obvious reasons. And then we're going to take the upper intake, has to come off, replace the car one.
Hey, so I found the penetrating oil, but I can't find the big vice grips. Do you have any?
I think they're out in the green car on the steering wheel. Actually, wait, they are the steering wheel for the green car. So maybe go check that.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Mike. A shop tip for everyone out there is if you've got your, as Derek would say, going to town clothes and you hit the taco stand one too many times and have a little incident, then you can cut these up and they're great for shop rags or what we're going to use them for, if I don't trip here, is put them in the exhaust ports to just stuff them in there and then we clean up the exhaust ports and don't worry about getting too much junk in there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take the old scissors and make us some shop rags. All right, here we go. See how Mike does trying to extract these. Yeah, you're just slipping it. I think you're going to need a little more pressure. You have to. I might have to put the heat to it. Just give her some coals. Is it turning?
Seems like something's happening.
Oh yeah, that's turning. Here it comes. Just like that. It'll start turning really easy once you get a couple twists on it. There you go. Just like that, folks. And we'll do the same thing with the other one. And as you can see, they come out pretty easy. You lock some vice grips on there and away you go. We're just going to put our new timing cover gasket in. So right now, you just want to kind of start any place. You just press it in there, just like that. And these are reusable to a point. You got to inspect them. If they're way too flat, then you don't want to reuse them. But if they got material sticking up proud still, then you're pretty good. You do have to be careful because they are somewhat directional. You can see that this side's a little longer, this side's a little shorter, different curves. So it does only go on one way. And as soon as we get this done, we're going to bring it over and we're going to put it on that donor engine. So just to kind of close it back up. And the other reason is we want to pull off the oil pan soon. But we don't want to pull it off yet until we have this on there, because that provides us our flat surface to seal against. And then we're relatively confident that this will sit on how it's supposed to. So we can take this over there right now. And just before we put it on, we're going to check this tensioner, check the timing chain. We'll kind of give it a good look in here, see how everything's looking. So we're going to set this on. We're going to clean this mating surface up. Then we're going to set this on. And then after that, we'll pull the pan off, and then it'll be ready for when we're ready to put the other pan on there. Okay, one thing I want you to be kind of looking out for when you're doing this type of swap is right here, you'll see this has some locating pins on this timing cover. And you can see we still have the pin in the block, and we have a pin in this side. This side we're good, that one will go on. These two pins are going to fight each other, so we're going to have to pull either one out of the cover or the one out of here. The other thing to watch out for is they pick up on some different locations, the truck and the car cover. So right here, the car cover uses that. You can see that's pretty corroded and nasty. If you try to thread a bolt in there right now, you're not going to have a lot of luck. So we're going to want to tap that, clean it out. Just kind of look for any of those that you're going to have to clean up before you put the cover on. Okay, we're going to get to doing that, and then we'll get this cover on. Okay, so we've got our timing cover cleaned up. Slide it on. Oh, I got our dipstick in the way here. And then what we'll do is we'll just lightly draw it on and put some screws in the bottom to suck it, flush the oil pan, and then we'll take them back, tighten these down, and take the oil pan back off.
So that's the timing cover swap from the car to the truck.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so what we've done is we've put the timing cover bolts in, put a few in just loosely to get it nice and flush on there. Just enough to compress the gasket a little bit, but not torqued. So then we're putting our oil pan bolts in, making sure that everything lines up. Okay, and we're not going to put a lot of pressure on these either. We're just enough that it would sit how it normally would. And once we've done that, then we'll put a little more pressure on the timing cover bolts, and then we can pull this oil pan off, because what you're trying to do is match up this surface right here so it's nice and flat and flush. And then that way we can pull this oil pan. Don't have to worry about the timing cover sitting too low or too high. And when we put the other oil pan on, everything will be nice and level. So that's all we're trying to do right now. So we're not putting it on permanently, just enough. We'll give those a little bit of a snug now. And that shouldn't go anywhere, so it should be good. Okay, Mike, we can pull all these oil pan bolts off and get this oil pan off now.
Nice.
Okay, we got the dipstick tube out of there. Now, if you go watch the Jeep video, you can see how we got it up. But basically, I like to put a little bit of heat on the boss and then hit it with some penetrant oil and just slowly work it till it loosens up. Otherwise, you're going to snap the tube and then it's of no use to you. So that's what we did on this one too. We just heated it up, hit it with some penetrant, rocked it a little bit till it came free, and then we just wiggled it out. Now we're going to put that little plug back in. I'm going to use a brass punch. We're just going to put a little silicone on it. Just tap it in. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to get this windage / gasket off, because it's a little bit different from the car to the truck. The oil pan has a couple different holes that it picks up on, and as I said in the Jeep video, the Jeep's also a little bit different. we'll have to remove this stud, replace it with a bolt. And the oil pickup tube, again, comes to the front sump, so it doesn't come back here to a rear sump like it does on the truck. So here's what the truck windage tray / gasket looks like. And we go over there, we can see the car. And it's up front, it's pretty much the same. Like all this area is pretty much the same. It's down here that it gets different. So we'll get that off and I'll show you the difference. All right, that's the easiest way to do that. We'll just lay it over top. You can see where this gasket extends out here, and it doesn't have the corner small bolts. It's got these bigger bolts though.
Right.
Right. So we're gonna have to get this off, clean up the surface, and then we'll get this one on. It's still in pretty good shape. We should be able to reuse it. Okay, we're about to put the gasket / windage tray back on, but first we're going to want to run a bead of silicone here, 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 and here. And because that is where, oh, there's a brand new little tube here, look at that. Oh, it's coming out, it's ready to go. So we're going to put our bead of silicone right there. We're going to cover this gap up. Like that. Don't need to get too excessive, but just fill this in so it seals up. The reason we do that is this is where the timing cover meets the block, and it's where the rear seal meets the block, and so there's a gap there that we want to just make sure fills in, doesn't leak. So we're going to put the windage tray on next, and we should be good to go. Yeah, we're about ready to put our oil pan on. You can see we've got it all cleaned up, ready to go. And Mike's installed the oil pump pickup, torqued that to 21 foot-pounds, right? So we should be good. We're just gonna set it on and get some bolts in here.
So that's a considerably more substantial oil pan, eh?
Yes, it is. It's actually kind of structural. So it actually has a critical torque sequence, which tells you to look in the book to see what that torque sequence is. And again, surprise, surprise, it's going to be pretty much a spiral pattern, but we'll double check it, make sure that's the case. So we'll get to getting these bolts in, get it torqued down. There's silicone on there on the other side, so we should be good to go.